All right, so we were talking about, let's see, the magnetic circuit. And we're going through the parts of the magnetic circuit. Consists of a rotating magnet, pole shoes, pole shoe extensions, and the coil core. And we just finished talking about the coil core. Let me see, I believe, yep. Made of the same material as pole shoes and completes a magnetic circuit. What is it made out of?
Soft iron.
What about the soft iron? Laminated soft iron. All right. So, let me see. Then I get into the operation. But this is the operation of the magnetic circuit, not the whole thing. And we covered this, I think, reasonably well already. As the magnet rotates, the magnet lines up with the pole shoes. It completes a magnetic circuit. So when the magnet is lined up with the pole shoes, what is that called?
A full register.
Yep. Is full register. Full register. This is when the maximum or minimum lines of flux?
Maximum.
Okay, maximum lines of flux. Through circuit. Maximum lines of flux through the circuit. Then as it continues to rotate, we get into the second position. Magnet. They actually use the word shorted out. The lines of flux are shorted out. And if we look at our drawing, we can kind of see how you might want to see that. There we go. In the neutral position, they're shorted out, not allowed to flow. So it's a long way from where I'm writing. So there we go. They get shorted out. So magnet not lined up. I hate that. Doesn't really work well. Not lined up is neutral. Not to say that it's a very specific spot, neutral. What is it about neutral that you learned from me passing around that magneto with?
It always wants to go back.
It wants to go to neutral.
It wants to go to neutral. When it's in neutral, does it rotate freely or?
It sort of sits there.
It locks itself in. So neutral is really easy to find on a magneto. It gets a little bit more difficult once you put everything together. It's surprisingly harder to do, but it's still doable. It'll lock itself into neutral. That's an important point. So not lined up, magnet not lined up is neutral. Okay. And that would be the minimum, or no lines of flux, actually. No lines of flux through the circuit. And let me see. There'll be a point when the magnet reaches neutral. Lines of flux not travel through the poles. We did that. As the magnet continues to rotate, the flux lines reverse, build back up. The graph, it looks like AC. That was known as the graph we did that just looked like AC. What did we call that?
Static flux curve.
The static flux curve. All right. All right, then we have, what's the next circuit?
Primary.
That would be the page I just had. All right, that would make more sense. All right, I'm like, oh, how did I skip all that? The primary circuit. Primary circuit. All right, so what parts do we have of the primary circuit? Well, start off with the... Start with the big thing. Primary winding, primary coil, however you want to call it. And where do we find that?
In the coil assembly.
In the coil assembly. And the terminology is has a relatively few turns. Has a relatively few turns of wire. Not many. Next item.
It has breaker points.
Breaker points, also called contact assembly or points. Called contact assembly or points, either one will do. What opens them? Okay, points are opened by rotating cam. And the function of the primary points is to do what?
It's to open up the primary circuit, or open up, to basically break the
To ground it.
magnetic field, or collapse magnetic field.
Okay. Its job is to open and, well, close the primary circuit. Job is to open and close the primary circuit, and that it does. What is connected to the points?
Condenser.
All right. Let's see. Connected to points. We have condenser. What else? Mag switch, also called the P lead. What do you think P stands for? Primary lead, probably. It's called the P lead. What's P lead connected to? The ignition switch. That's the on-off wire right there. What happens if the P lead is disconnected? Mag is on. Let's see. Oh, I guess we can throw this in there. It is called a contact assembly. When I see the word assembly, what does that mean? Made up of lots of stuff. So what else would we have on there? So we'll call other parts. What other parts make up the contact assembly here?
There is a lubrication belt.
Let me see. We have a cam follower. What is that?
It follows the cam.
Yeah, it's a little piece of plastic that actually runs against the cam. Box of garbage. All right, so we got the cam, plastic, the cam follower, which I'm sure you can see from there, which is a piece of plastic that rides against the cam. And then touching that is a piece of felt. And what does the felt do?
It lubricates.
All right, so I have felt for lubrication. Felt for lubrication. Obviously, we have the contact points. And there is a spring. What's the spring do?
Leaf spring just springs that contact point back together.
Yeah, leaf spring. It doesn't. It's not a coil spring. It's just a piece of steel that is kind of springy. So I don't know if I have these in my notes later on or what. So let's hit them while I'm thinking about them, and then why, if we see them later, it's a bonus. So okay, cam follower made out of plastic. So it's plastic. And obviously it's going to be prone to wear, yeah? Because it's riding against metal. So it will wear, and that's what it's supposed to do, and that's fine. But as it wears, plastic, as it wears. So what is it? So it's riding against the cam. And the cam is a circle that is concentric. I'm going to try and draw a perfect circle, and I'll end up with a perfect cam. All right, there we go. So we have a cam, right? And so we have the cam follower is a piece of plastic that's going to ride on there with the leaf spring, and we have the points. Let's see, that's going to push them open. Going to push them open, so that would mean I've got to be helpful if I actually had one. I could just kind of copy it. Let me say it real quick.
That would be open right now.
Try and do like that. What it really looks like here. Yeah, so we got that kind of a thing going on over here. And then we have another one right here. And that is all connected to a, we'll just stick with that. Connected to a metal bar that kind of connects the whole thing together, so whatever. All right, so this cam follower will tend to wear, and as it wears, what is going to happen?
It's gonna retard spark.
Well, so we have the eccentric circle here, and so on any sort of cam, the part leading up to the high spot is called the ramp. So on the cam, we have the ramp.
So whereas it's not gonna be able to open those contact points as far away.
Okay, so it's not going to open them as far.
It's gonna
Which-
take longer for it to open them.
It will, yes, they will open late. And close early. So when you're working on a magneto, you're going to set the E gap. And E gap is what?
A few degrees beyond neutral.
The number of degrees past neutral at which the points open. Okay, A for me. Try it again. E gap is
The number of degrees past neutral
points open. Okay, so you're going to set it so they open exactly. Well, like your magneto, the one you're working on, the S20 series, is 10 degrees plus or minus 4.
Yep.
Okay, so this part right here, this plus or minus 4, that's for losers. All right? Did I tell 309? I don't know. I tell the story a lot, but I heard it somewhere, and I wish I had it, the source of this. But it was automakers making transmissions. In the story I heard, I don't have the source, but it was something to the effect of a transmission company came up with a transmission they wanted made, so they sent the prints to a place in Detroit, probably Chrysler, and then they sent the other blueprints off to Japan, probably Toyota, and the Toyota, they each built it, and the Toyota transmissions just blew them out of the water. They worked so much better and lasted so much longer. And when they figured out why, it was, well, when they sent it to Detroit and they said, hey, we want it 10 degrees plus or minus 4, that meant that 14 was completely acceptable, as was 6. And when they sent it to Japan, they said, well, you said 10 degrees, so that's what we did. And so, I don't know, I always try and, that plus or minus 4, that right there is when I'm really frustrated and I can't, and it's not working, and something's wrong, and it's, and I have to use that to do something else, then okay, I'll allow. But otherwise, what is our target?
10 degrees.
10 degrees, right. If you're too lazy to do the 10 degrees, then I don't know, that's up to you, I guess. So anyway, we go 10 degrees. Huh?
You must be from Detroit.
Yes, that's right. I know, make everybody mad saying that story. But anyway, it's a story I heard. So, okay. So we set it for exactly 10 degrees. And when it opens, then we are asked to measure that right there, 0.018 all right, plus or minus 0.006. All right, so here's the funny thing. So I will set it for exactly 10, and then I will use all of that. Because what that is doing is it is telling you, and I don't expect you to really memorize this one, but if you set it for 10 degrees and you end up with a gap right there of 0.012. Is that acceptable or not acceptable?
Yeah.
Acceptable.
It's acceptable. Why is it 0.12 and not 0.18?
Because it's worn down.
Because the follower has worn down a little bit, and that's just as far as it opens. So what if we get to 0.011?
Throw it away.
Nope.
Yeah, your followers wore out too much, or your cam could be wore out, but one of those two things is wore out too much. So the closer you get to 0.18, the better you are. And if you have brand new points, depending on the manufacturer, you might be well over that 1.8. Yeah.
So on our projects, if we do get it to 10 degrees and it is below, can we grab a new, not a new, but like another
Old used set that got thrown out and
Yeah, I mean,
collected
like,
here.
what's the deal with that? Because I know they're all junk, so it's like, how
Yeah.
many of these do we have to go through?
Almost all of these parts literally came from my shop. So as we were building mags, we would just throw all of our used
So they're
stuff
all
in a
junk.
bucket, and then they'd give off to the school. So
Well, so what do I do? Honestly, because I actually just did that.
Yeah.
At the end of class, at the end of lab, and I got to like just above 10 degrees.
yeah,
And then I put the
Feeler gauge.
0.12 feeler gauge in
Yeah.
there, and it was definitely too big.
you can try one of the other old ones.
So trying to get it to it as close as I can. But I did ended up getting it to be within tolerance of both.
I'm going to be more interested in your 10 degrees.
Okay.
So I'll hold you to that. The 018 I can't hold you to because I'm giving you old parts.
Okay.
So all right, where equals
Opens late and closes.
open late and close early. Who else does that? Taco Bell? I don't know.
Late closes.
No, that's kind of like you guys, you know. Well, got to work late, so I guess I better leave early to make up for it. All right. As it wears, let's see. I didn't even finish that. As it wears, points will. That wasn't supposed to go there. I was so proud of myself because I thought I really had it. Points will. As wears, points will. Will what?
Open late, close early.
Open late and close early. Let's see. The felt is there for the lubrication. We got the contact point. Oh, contact points. How do you clean contact points?
Oh, with
You
a
put it in
business
the
card.
paper. Put a business card.
But you just close it on the paper.
You take
And
a
then
file and you put it in there and just kind of go back
That
and
works
forth.
too.
Sure, once.
Spit on it.
Cleaning. Why is it doing that? Whatever. Okay. What does it say in the manual exactly? Use a
You
business
use a
card.
piece of like coarse paper, like a business
Yeah.
card. It
Coarse
says business
paper
card
or
in
a
there.
business.
Does it say business card?
It does. It does say it in there.
It says thick paper, but most business cards.
All right, but you can't use a business card that's got like printing and stuff. It's got to be the paper business cards. Like some of them have, yeah, the laminated or glossy or something like that. And use business card.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Let me
110
see.
pound card stock.
Paper-ish.
Yeah, like this would be good.
So just cardstock.
Yeah, it's a 110 pound card stock.
Don't swallow
actually.
it.
Oh, well,
You might
it's
be
business
taking
card.
on
You
your
can take it. I don't
Yeah.
care.
All you do is open points. Insert card.
But do not.
Open points. Remove card.
Do not drag the card through it.
You don't drag it through. You don't.
Is that just because it's like it would scratch it up and mess with the?
There's a coating on them,
Oh,
and so you don't want to take that coating off. I was a kid, I was taught lawnmowers, stuff like that, motorcycles.
same.
Yeah, you basically, I had a piece like 400 grit. You put it in there, just go at it with 400 grit, and file them nice and smooth, and then once you do it, you find
Looks
you're doing
shiny.
it often. So yeah.
What about when you check with the feeler gauge?
Well, it's metal, so in theory, it's not scratching it or
So
damaging
you
it.
can slide it out like you would normally a feeler gauge?
All right, so when I set up a feeler gauge, I'm going to set it up as a go, no-go gauge. So if I have a tolerance of 18 plus or minus 6, I'm going to get out 2 feeler gauges.
Yeah, the top one and the bottom.
Right? I'm going to get out a 0.012 and a, what's my, oh shit, I forgot to do. What's my other one?
0.024.
All right.
We're gonna do default.
So again, the book says it must be this. Everybody follow? So 0.018 is perfection, but it can be as small as 0.012 or as big as.
0.024.
So all you really need to do is get 2 feeler gauges out, the 012 and the 024. Or you can go 025 if you want, and I'll tell you why. So the 012 had better fit, right? Because the gap has got to be between 12 to 24. The gap has to be between these two numbers. Everybody follow? Everybody follow? So a 12, and let's just say our gap is 0.023. We just happen to know that, right? Because somebody magically told us it's 023. So an 012, will it fit?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's 023. Is that good?
Yeah.
All right. But when you get a gap, you're not going to know. So I take the 012.
It'll fit.
It had better fit. If it doesn't, then they're
Too close.
too close. Throw them out. Okay. And the 025 should not fit
At all.
at all. Because if it does,
It's
Too big, throw it out.
it's too big. Throw it out. So it's called a go, no-go gauge. 12 had better go, and 25 had better
No.
not go. And so now it's somewhere between 12 and 24. Do I care what it is?
No.
Not really. I mean, if I really want to care and I want to tighten it up a little bit, I could have my personal minimums. I could say, well, I'm building the mag. I don't want anything smaller than a 016, and I don't want anything bigger than a 020. I could do that. And I could say, as long as it's between these two numbers,
No.
then I will accept it and sign my name to it. You can always do that in aviation. If they give you a tolerance and you want to bring it in and say, well, I'm better than that. Like we talked in 309 about serviceable limits, right? So the manufacturer said this is new, but between these two numbers is new, but it can wear to this, not serviceable. You could say, I don't do serviceable. I do new. And if it goes as serviceable, then I don't use it. I throw it away. I tag it. I sell it on eBay. I do whatever I want with it.
It's overhaul versus rebuild.
It is, but you're allowed to do that. You don't have to say, well, it's serviceable. I have to accept it.
What's the like social like if you go to a shop and you start doing stuff like that and saying my tolerances are hella tight, you know, are some of the shop owners gonna be like, dude, you're gonna just do me like, or is it gonna be kind of tough?
It depends on the dollar amount. Like, so I built all my engines. I overhauled all my engines to new standards.
To new standards?
Yeah, and it wasn't hard to do at all. But if it got to a point, and so some things I gave my customers a choice on. Some things I really didn't. But I was always honest with them. It's like, okay, your crankshaft is in serviceable limits, and it is acceptable, but not to my standards. We want to go new. And let me tell you why we want to go new, and let me tell you why you want to spend the money on this. And then if the customer said, yeah, I understand what you're saying, no, which never happened, then I probably would say, okay, as long as we're all in agreement. And because serviceable, it should run all the way to TBO, but then there should be no problems with the engine whatsoever. So I would say, okay, well, as long as we understand each other, just talk to your customer.
And it's different with each thing too.
Each
So
thing.
with
Yeah.
Crankshaft's a little bit more important. I guess camshaft you can allow almost a little bit more slack in that.
Yeah, but there are certain things about camshafts. Like I was almost insistent with Lycoming, got new camshafts and not reconditioned because of the way they're located and blah, blah. We'll get into that with the engines. Yeah, I would just be honest with my customers. Never, they're smart. Educate them. Educate your customer. Tell them why you're doing it. Let them make the choice. They almost always make really good choices.
Because they have to fly it.
Yeah.
You forgot to add after insert card or select payment type.
Yeah, you want to use your put the chip in first. Okay.
20% tip.
I do want to say, I think there's some places where it says you know, don't force it open with the spring, because if you open it too wide, you ruin the spring tension on it. So watch out for that. Okay, so we had all those things. We have, let's see. Okay, so we have cleaning them, felt for lubrication. Everybody, I'm sure once you get to the project, you'll know exactly how much lubrication it is. Squeeze it with your fingers, get a little residual.
They can't be drinking.
Then you keep squeezing till it doesn't do it anymore. All right, next thing, condenser. Oops, wait, change pen. Condenser, also called
Capacitor.
capacitor. All right, wired in parallel. Wired in parallel to the points. Let me see. Try not to be so wordy, but it's taking me too long to actually. When points open, they have a tendency to arc. Tendency to arc. That's arc. This wears out the points. It's bad form. It's like welding across it, so they get all pitted and damaged, so you don't want to do that. That's not another sentence. It's just they have a tendency to arc. So the capacitor will protect. So capacitor protects points. From the arcing, which we talked about why and how it does that. Let's see. Also aids in rapid collapse. Of the primary. And this one I haven't mentioned. So capacitor, let's start this. Also aids in absorbing the induced voltage generated in the primary as its own field is collapsed. And this is known as self-induction. Induced voltage that's generated. So what the hell word is that? No, it's self-induction. When you do have collapsing fields, so the field is collapsing, what is it collapsing around? Itself. So we have a magnetic field that is changing across a conductor. That creates
electricity,
which
creates inductance.
Which, yeah. So you're going to get this self-induction going on there. You're going to see that on a lot of coils, like relays and such. So you'll see diodes often connected across, so that when it gets self-induced voltage in it, instead of arcing across the switch, it'll send it to ground. Let's see. Next circuit. Let's hear it. Well, it wasn't hard. What comes after primary?
Tertiary.
Secondary circuit. Well, what do we have in the secondary circuit?
Secondary winding.
Secondary winding.
Secondary winding. Where is it located?
Around the primary.
In the coil assembly around the primary. Contained in the coil assembly. Around the primary. Has over 100 times the amount of turns as the primary. Has over 100 times the number of turns as the primary. Which would be several thousand turns. Several thousand turns. All right, so we've got the secondary winding. Where does, and that's going to create the high voltage, right? Where does that voltage leave?
The distributor running.
You have, I guess, 4 or 5 choices. Choice number 1, the laminated iron core.
No.
False. The ground lead, which is ready to fall off.
No.
The lead going to the breaker points.
No.
Out the case, magically,
No.
Hopefully.
or the
not.
high tension tab.
High tension tab.
All right, so high tension tab. So let's see. I don't have that on here, but we have secondary winding. We have the high tension tab. That'd be the name of a good drink right there, high tension tab. Well, okay, so leaving the high tension tab, what is the very next thing it runs into?
The
Distributor
carbon
rotor.
brush.
The carbon brush. Carbos brush. The carbon brush. What is the carbon brush located inside of? All right, now we've got the distributor rotor or rotor. Do I need to tell you what the carbon brush is made out of?
Purple carbon.
Thank you.
What kind of carbon?
Yeah.
It's named out of brush.
Made out of brush, toothbrush.
Horsehair?
All right, so it's a carbon brush, a little spring. There's a trick to getting them out. I ask you not to do it because they'll get broken. But to unlock the spring, you push and twist to the right and pull, and it makes the spring kind of get a little bit smaller. It pops right out. Don't just grab and pull them. Makes
Like
the
a
spring.
pill bottle.
Sure.
So basically, it's just like when you.
If I had to tell you what it's like a carbon brush in a magneto. So that's
Like what a
ex-
magneto does.
yes.
This is like what a magneto is. I almost think we're talking about magnetos.
No carbon brush. Yes, I do. I have a carbon brush. It's just shoved down in there because somebody broke it off. How else do you break off a carbon brush? When you put the magneto halves together and you don't have it lined up and twist them to get it lined up, it just drags this right across a high tension shaft and very neatly shears it off inside there. So, oh, that's gonna be fun on the recording, huh?
Oh, yeah.
There we go. So you grab it, act like you're gonna tighten it, it pops right out. Push it back in, just do the inverse. So it's like left-hand threads. Just pass it around, you can try it.
The people who are
Well,
not
no.
falling asleep on the recorder
It's-
are going to get
it's-
a nice rude awakening.
Well, the carbon brush is broken, so it doesn't sit down there far enough to actually engage like it should. So me passing around isn't going to help you a whole lot. So anyway, we have the rotor. Here's the rotor. The rotor's got a lot of writing on it.
Should it?
CCW booster, CCW normal, CW booster, CW normal. What are all of those words?
Counterclockwise, clockwise, clockwise.
The
clockwise,
rotor.
booster, whatever magneto
Talk about
part
that.
of the-
Well, it's a plastic gear driven by the rotating magnets. The rotor is driven by rotating magnet. It contains the distributor gear electrode. Also called
Yield.
the finger.
A big toe.
Also called the finger. That is this little brass piece sticking up right there. So the electricity is going to come out the high tension tab, go onto the carbon brush. There's a reason why this is plastic now, because it is insulated from the other gear, and electricity to come out the little brass finger tab and bronze and shoot across to the distributor. All right, so we got that. Let me see. Usually contains carbon brushes. I already put the carbon brush in there. Carbon brush. We got the rotor. Something else I want to say. Oh, we're talking about all the writing on there. So timing. I'm going to call it timing. I'm going off notes now. So on this thing, you have a lot of words on here. And we'll go over here and see what we can do. Oh, wait, let's try something. Was it that one? Yeah.
Circle?
Yes, let's try the circle. There we go.
Hold it.
Oh, all right, then it's got all the teeth out here going around. And then if I do this right, let's see, we've got an arrow that goes like that, comes down, and it comes around. This comes around. And let me see, we got one over here that goes like this way. And another one over here, just to make it complicated, that goes this way. All right, so each one of these is going to have a word on it. So we have CCW booster. We have CCW normal. We have CW booster. And CW normal. And then each one of these is lined up with a tooth. There, each one's lined up with a tooth. And they actually come around this side. Oops, got a little overzealous there. Like that. And each one is going to be in between a tooth. This is the internal timing of the magneto. So when you have the rotating magnet, the rotating magnet has a gear on it, which I don't have. And that rotating magnet has a gear that goes on here, and that gear is much smaller. Love that. And it has one tooth on it that you're going to look for, and it's chamfered. So if we look at the tooth, draw a chamfer. It's just going to kind of look like that. One tooth has got like a little piece missing. It's like that. On a side view. It's called a chamfer. And all the other teeth don't look like that. All the other teeth are going to look like this as we look at the side view going around. So, all right, so we're going to look for that one right there, and I like to color it red so I can find it real easy. And then we have all of these choices. Well, the choices look kind of hard, but it's not. A booster and a booster. Tell me what a booster is. Do you guys have, do you do normal or booster on yours?
We do normal.
Normal. You did not do booster because booster is shower of sparks.
Oh, yeah.
Or a starting vibrator, which we'll get into later. So shower of sparks. Normal is either a impulse or nothing. Impulse or nothing. So now it becomes pretty easy. You either have, and looking back at this one, let me see. This one is right here is CCW booster. The next one in right there is CCW normal. Then we have CCW normal and CCW booster. I'm sorry. CW, sorry. The CW booster. So these two right over here on the right side are clockwise. CW normal and CW booster. So outside is booster, inside is normal. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look up what you have. Now, how do I know if my magneto is clockwise or counterclockwise? No. How do you know if they put the right impulse coupling on? You know how many years it's taken me to get your magnetos to actually be as good as they are? A lot of years.
Serial number on the bottom of the magneto?
Not serial number.
Part number?
Part number, model number.
6L is 6 left-hand rotation, 6R is 6 right.
So the whole thing is decoded with this. So if you have a S4LN-21, or maybe you have an S6LN-21, or a, oops, that should be an S.
Weird looking S.
Ah, well, S6LN-21. All right, so the S is the S series. So there's S series, SC series. SC stands for short case. We have the S series, the 4 and the 6, that is?
Cylinders.
Cylinders. Number of cylinders. And then this right here, the L, is going to be either left or right. So if you have a S4RN, it is a right. When viewed from the what?
Drive-in.
Drive-in. Some of you are still messing this up. You pick up the magneto. If it's all in pieces, just pick up the case. Go, yeah, this is the drive end right here. This is the drive end. Is this the drive end?
No.
This is the drive end.
Yeah.
And I look at it. If it's a left-hand rotating, I look at it and I go
That way.
to the left. So if it's an S6LN, it goes
Left.
to the left. That's all there is to it.
And when the end
Then I would look at the coupling and go, okay, that at least goes the same way. So don't start with the coupling, finish with the coupling. Go, okay, because the data plate right there is going to tell me. See, this one happens to say part number. So the part number, kind of, it's more the model number. This is an S6RN-23.
Right here.
right hand.
Right hand. Okay, what's the 20, 21, 23? That right there, you kind of have to decode inside of the maintenance manual, but most of them are either going to be 20s or 21s. A 21 is impulse, and a 20 is not impulse. It's the odd numbers tend to be impulse, and I think the even numbers are not. But don't mark me on that one. But I tell you for a fact, a 21 is your common impulsed magneto for a Bendix.
What is does the N stand for anything, or?
It does. I don't remember what it is, but they all have it, so I don't know.
Can Can you put an impulse coupling on a non-impulse one? Is it like they're totally like? What I mean is that like, are they? You know, you say that. Remember?
Yes and no. The engine and the aircraft have to be type certificated to allow it, or you have to get an STC to do it. However, there is an airworthiness directive on impulse couplings, and it clearly states in the AD that a method of compliance is to install a shower of sparks system, which sort of implies within that AD that that's data to do it. But you have to make sure all the parts are correct, and because they have different shafts and different lengths and stuff like that. So it's not something I would just...
Sounds like a lot of reading between the lines.
You have to verify that works. All right, so we have, let's say, we'll go with what you guys have. And most of you have an S6LN-21 in the shop, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so we got to set this up. So, is it booster or normal?
Normal.
Clockwise or
Counterclockwise.
counterclockwise? So it's left is counterclockwise. So it's CCW normal?
Yes.
So it's that one. All right, so what I do is I find CCW normal. It's this one right here. I will paint the tooth. And
The chamfer.
just this one doesn't have a chamfer. This one's got a full tooth.
Then the paint the.
I take it back. It is chamfered, actually. That particular one is chamfered. So paint the tooth all the way down. These two right here were for the small gear. But this one here also has a chamfer, but don't worry about that. So all three of them do right here. But paint the tooth all the way down.
All over the place.
No, one tooth. And then do not paint the other side. Just follow it around, CCW, and put one little dot of paint right there. Because when you are installing it on the engine, you need to clearly identify that tooth, and you do not want to see anything but that tooth. Isn't that right, Duncan? He'll tell you, because he's been through that class. So he'll know. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You've done this.
And that indent is where you line up that smaller.
This little indent is where this tooth goes there. So this lines up with the other gear. So the other gear is going to go here. And the chamfered tooth is going to go right in there, the one you painted, because you'll never see it. And that is internal timing. And that is something I never covered before in lecture. So, all right, secondary, high tension, got the rotor, we did timing. We are still talking about parts of the secondary. So what comes after the rotor? Okay, just for you, Stephen, the distributor. The distributor. We don't say distributor block. Distributor block is fine. What do you kept calling it?
Distributor.
No, it's like the cap. Yeah, it's not a cap. It's the distributor. And so that is where the high tension leads. Attach. Inside of the distributor, there's a lot I could talk about distributors. They've been through so many different styles and product improvements. You can't even commit it to memory. You have to look through the book. It'll tell you to look for a drilled spot or a CC or brown or black. The new ones all have a felt. Okay, there's felt strips and felt washers. Felt washers go in this way, because if I were to pull it out, which I don't know if anybody has a tool to yank something like that out with. This is how you break the lead off your pencil. No. If I pulled that out, it would look like a washer. If I pulled this out, it would just be a piece of flat strip of felt. So felt strip goes in this side, felt washer goes in that side. A lot of you don't have the felt washer in yours. I mean the strip. So all right. There are springs down in there. They are a pain to change. If you accidentally pull one out, you're not going to have fun, because the tool we have to do it is just, it's a kind of a homemade tool that emulates what it should be, and it doesn't work that great. You end up ruining springs to get them in, so don't pull your springs out. A lot of you have said, can I pull them out? No, you don't want to, but if you want to, go ahead. Yeah, I will get you the tool and tell you to have some fun. I figured out a way to use it. You kind of use it backwards, but I eventually did it. So, all right. Let's see. Distributor. So, yeah, I'm not going to write a lot about that. Looking at a magneto. This one is a, I don't know, S6LN. So which way does it rotate?
Anti-clockwise. Goes left hand. Left hand rotation.
It rotates the left-hand side viewed from the drive side.
Finally, from the
Drive in.
You don't say drive in, you ain't get it right. So left, it turns to the left when viewed from the drive in. Well, which way is this going now?
To the
Left.
Left when you look at it.
Yeah, it's always
From
the
the-
same direction.
From the points of condenser side.
When you
From
look
the-
at it. Just say when you look at it.
Okay.
If I'm looking at it, it's going to also turn to the left. So,
So it's turning right now as you're looking.
yes. All right. Okay, what comes after the distributor?
Ignition leads.
High tension leads. I have like pages of stuff to talk about leads and spark plugs. I am not going to do that because Larry Johnson will take care of you on spark plugs and leads. High tension leads, and then come spark plugs. Or your spark tubes. You don't want a leaky spark tube.
Yeah.
All right, that is break time.